Brian, we've been talking about this project, the Promised Land.
Yeah.
And you know, as a filmmaker, videographer, communicator, you had to you made a commitment to do this. Yeah. Talk to us about that. What was your heart?
Well, I mean, first time there, I noticed the beauty of the Promised Land in a way that I never could see any other way. You can Google all these places and see static images, or, you know, just look at another kind of pile of rocks, but you don't really capture the essence of the place. And Israel's been shot in every conceivable way for any kind of religious or historical documentary. So that had already been done. What we wanted to do was to try to capture what it feels like to be there. So how do we look at this place poetically and not kind of put me in front of a camera or, you know, another talking head saying, here's where we're at. How do we make the land that God chose to do so much of his work in the focus of our attention? And so that's what we went in trying to do.
And it took 2 years, 3 years to do it?
We shot for 3 years, 3 different seasons, so that would be about 7 weeks of shooting. We had kind of accumulated about 60 hours of footage that we then went back, and that was a painstaking process
to kind of 60 to 2.
Right. And, you know, how do you focus in on what is actually going to work together to create that atmosphere? And we've got some of the only aerial footage of these locations that's ever been shot, and so how do we incorporate that without it kind of taking the focus? How do we go above, come down intimately? How do we create the atmosphere?
And the government was fine with you doing it. Did you have any problems with permits and getting the legal right?
We didn't have any
there?
problems with permits. We were, you know, we worked with a production company and worked with the Israeli government. There were a few places where they asked us to land. You know, they don't particularly like drones flying over Jerusalem. And so there were, you know, a few places where we could shoot from the ground, but there were a few places.
Well, you brought a trailer with you, so yeah. Let's go to the trailer and take a look at the project.
When I was a kid, I grew up going to Sunday school. The stories of the Bible were sort of woven into the fabric of my life. Whether it was characters on a flannel board, or coloring books, or dramatized Bible stories, the places in the scriptures captured a place in my imagination, like the world that opens up when you read a good novel. And I thought that was enough. It wasn't really on my list of things to do before I died to actually go to those places I'd imagined for years. When I finally got the chance to go to some of these places, I took it. I wanted to know what it felt like to stand in places I'd imagined my whole life, to see the land that God chose to concentrate so much of his effort in, and a place that for thousands of years has shaped the world we live in today. The journey we're about to go on together is the result of 3 years of filming in the Promised Land. I call it the Promised Land because that's what we'll be focused on. The entire Bible encompasses a much wider swatch of what we now know as the Middle East and parts of Africa. The New Testament widens the arc even further into the ancient Roman Empire. What we're focusing on here is the relatively small patch of land that started with a man named Abram and a promise from God to give him children that would grow to be a vast multitude and come into a land that he would give them, where they would be his people and he would be their God. It took a long time, but eventually the children of Israel would finally cross a river, a real river called the Jordan, and enter into this promised land. This is an intimate portrait of this land and the stories that happened in it. If you've been to this land, then this will be a beautiful travelogue reawakening memories of the time you spent here. If it's been a place in your imagination, then it will open a window into what it looks and feels like. Welcome to the Promised Land.
Beautiful video. We were just talking while that was playing. I'm a historian by hobby. My wife calls me a Civil War nut. I prefer enthusiast, prefer that title. But what I like about going to places that a Civil War battle happened is to know that that happened where I'm at.
Right.
So you kind of take on that
Right.
persona, if you understand at Gettysburg or Chancellorsville or wherever you go, what happened and the stories of the individuals for Franklin and Tennessee.
Yeah.
That brings it alive to you. I can see how this would do the same thing.
No doubt about it. Standing in those places and kind of spinning around, feeling the earth crunch beneath your feet, feeling the breeze on your face, and understanding, yeah, this is where God chose to not only inspire His Word, but to create a culture and a people that has affected the world to this day and continues to move forward. It's impossible to describe. And so with Promised Land, we were doing our best. There's no replacing being there, like you said.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is the next best thing. How close can we get? And that was the goal, and I think we've achieved quite a bit of that goal.
So if you've not been able to go, or even if you have gone to the Promised Land and you would like to go back in your mind through the experience that this DVD provides, it's an awesome tool. And if you've never been, here's a tool for you to use too. I want to encourage you to get a copy for yourself or your family and just let it envelop you. And it's not just it's not just what Jesus and God did there.
Right.
It's what He's going to do there.
Right.
Because the continuum isn't finished.
Right.
You know, when you look at the Mount of Olives and you look at where the temple will be rebuilt, you go, hey, it's the past, but it's also the future.
Right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Showing us your good work. Thanks for doing the project.
Thank you.
I know it was sacrificial.
Thank you.
We're glad you did.
Thank you.